We'll talk about that.
It's quite poor. Hello and welcome, my name is Ian and this channel is all about music and art, and this is addition to my series of videos on how to start a record label. I must first of all say that I'm not an expert, and all I'm doing is telling you basically how I work really. So it's 6 months since the last video in this series, and what's been happening? Well, to be honest, not a lot really. Still can't have people visiting the studio because the space is too small. Although I am working remotely with on a couple of projects. Anyway, the reason for this video is that I've had a couple of messages with questions, so I thought it was time for an update Q&A really. The first is more of a comment than a question. McGee Weiss, Y-W-W-Y-S, writes, anyway, McGee. Hi McGee. When talking about PRS and PPL, that it is interesting how I bring my own experience to describe how these organisations are non-effective. He then goes on to say that he did get less than £5 on his royalty cheque between 2015 and 2020. Well McGee, hey, I've just had my autumn 2020 statement and lo and behold it's £4.30. Great, huh? But that's PRS for you. Looking after the small guy as always. I was also listening to a podcast with Imogen Heap where she said she knew of some record companies not informing PPL when the rights of the release revert back to the artist, and this is sometimes happens in contracts. And she was setting up something called the Creative Passport to help solve this problem. It's in its early stages, but watch this space, or actually don't watch this space, but watch the Creative Passport space. I'll put the links in the comments down below if anybody's interested in having a look. So on to the main questions which come from Launi. Apologies in advance, I'm not going to try and pronounce your whole name, but Launi. We'll go with Launi. And I apologise if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Anyway, the message came by Facebook and it said, "Hello there Ian, I found a YouTube channel and was looking to start music production. Hope all is well." It is, Launi, thank you very much. I recently got confused on what I need to do for only online digital music. I have the software for producing music in my own studio. I do understand about PPL and PRS, but do I need to pay for copyrighting my music and lyrics? Do we also need insurance on digital music? Must I register as a limited company? I'm really confused with those things. I watch your whole playlist, etc, etc, etc. So, okay, the first question. Do you need to pay for copyrighting your music and lyrics? Well, I would say absolutely not. If you've written the music and the lyrics, then you own the copyright. And don't let anybody take it away from you unless they offer you what's called a buyout, which is an awful lot of money. And you get film companies that sometimes will do that. They'll want the rights to the music and they'll pay big money for that. But I want you to think of it this way. So I spend the whole afternoon creating a new song, and at the end of the day I run off a recording or a quick mix down of a demo. That's an MP3 or a WAV file, doesn't really matter which, but I've created a file. That file will have a date stamp, which is today's date, the date of when I first encoded it. And I would put that in a folder and leave it there. I then finish the song, upload it to the internet, say to SoundCloud or Bandcamp, something like that. And then 6 months later, I find somebody's stolen my song and had a hit with it and made some money. Can't say loads of money because royalty rates are so rubbish these days, but they've made some money out of it that I didn't get. Because I have the original recording I made, I can prove the date when I made it. And I'll say apparently or allegedly, because the minute you get lawyers involved, things get expensive and certainly nothing is certain. Okay, but in theory, if I have actually a date stamped document that says I made this file on a certain point or I made this music on a certain point, that should be enough really. Next question, do we need to have insurance on digital music? Not as far as I know, but I think, as I've said right at the beginning, I'm not an expert. And if someone can correct me on this, if I'm wrong, please do so in the comments down below. A couple of things though, in addition to this, you should have your studio equipment insured, all of it, and I do, separate policy. And if you have people visiting your studio, you'll need something called public liability insurance in case somebody walks in, trips over the carpet, ends up on the floor, they could claim damages and loss of earnings from you. So you need public liability. Public liability insurance is very cheap. But certainly, policy on your equipment, in case it gets stolen, policy on public liability. Last question, must I register as a limited company? No, you do not, definitely do not need to register as a limited company. You can trade as a sole trader or a partnership. There's more information about this in video 2 on the series about registering a business. There are advantages and disadvantages to both, but I would always advise talk to an accountant if you're not sure. Remember that if you are a limited company, your accounts will become available for the whole world to see at company's house, whereas a sole trader or partnership doesn't need to do that. We'll have a look at my last accounts in a minute. Accountancy fees are higher when you're a limited company, and accounts are always a year behind. So what we're looking at here is part of the accounts that you can see on the company's house website, and this goes for any limited company really. So this is the balance sheet as of the 31st of October 2019. Our year ends 31st of October each year, so we've just finished the 2020. And then in the next couple of months I'll be starting to prepare the accounts. I need to submit them by next summer. So we've got, the first thing we've got is a call-up share capital not paid. That basically means that we have a share, we have 100% shares. Those shares are split between 50% owned by me and 50% owned by my wife, who is my partner in the business. So we've then got assets. We've got fixed asset and current assets. We've got about £30,000 worth of assets there. That will go down this year as we have sold our music shop. So the assets that are in the business will definitely be less. And then we've got prepayments and accrued income. Now prepayments are when you pay an invoice or make a payment, it could be more than one, for a period in advance. For example, you may pay your rent for 3 months in advance. Well, we didn't have anything like that last year. I don't think we're going to have anything like that this year really. We were always, when we rented the shop, we always paid that monthly. So it wasn't an issue really. And then you've got creditors who have fallen out within 1 year. Any creditors who are outside of a year, and actually this year we will probably have some creditors who will fall outside that 1 year period. You have to identify those separately. So last year we were owed £630, which obviously got paid after the deadline, after the 31st of October. And then we've got net current assets or liabilities, okay, and the total there is 27,000. Then we've also got total assets less current liabilities, which is currently sat at 31,000. And then we've got creditors who fall due after more than 1 year. So last year we had, which was a loan really, 3,800. Okay, that loan will have come down again this year. And then we've got what's called a capital and reserve and the total net assets. So the business is worth about 27,000, or it was at the end of last year. And as I've said before, I've always, my approach to business is that you shouldn't borrow more than you can afford really. So, you know, when buying stock, when we had the shop, if we couldn't afford it and couldn't pay it, we didn't have it in the bank, we wouldn't buy it, simple as that. The problem is, quite a lot of businesses get into trouble because they don't do that. They borrow on potentially future orders. So you may think you've got a client coming in who is going to generate you £10,000 of the business. And then something happens, like a pandemic hits, and you lose that business. Now, if you've already spent that 10,000 or a percentage of that 10,000 thinking that money's going to come in, and it doesn't, then you've got problems, and that's where problems appear. So it's rather simplistic, and you can't always judge this sort of stuff very easily, but for us, as much as possible, we wouldn't spend money that we didn't have. So I hope that was useful, and if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'd also like to ask you to think about joining our growing collection of Patreon supporters. Thank you all you Patreon guys. And what you get there is there'll be extra material, including demos and all sorts of stuff. So if you'd like to join us, it'd be great if you would. It starts at a pound a month, which is less than the cost of a coffee. Anyway, you can always ding that little bell if you want to be notified when I post a new video. So thanks so much for watching, and thanks for all the interaction, all the emails and comments and all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. So thanks very much. All the best. Bye bye.